Welcome to Applied Risk Solutions Accident Reporting and Investigation Training Module. During this training module, we will review our procedures and forms for reporting injuries your employees sustain while they're at work. Accident reporting. Thorough accident reporting is critical because it saves money. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered. Did the injury occur at work? Not all injuries that are reported to have happened at work actually happened at work. Thorough investigations can help us resolve these. If the injury was at work, was it in the course and scope of the employee's job? Not all injuries that happen at work are actually compensable by workman's compensation insurance. If somebody was horseplaying or doing something unbeknownst to their supervisor that was not part of the scope of their job, then it would not be covered under workman's compensation insurance. Was the employee under the influence of drugs or alcohol? This is critical because workman's compensation insurance does not cover injuries from people who are under the influence of drugs. And following our procedures will help you reduce the cost of your health care. We'll talk more about that later. And of course, thorough accident investigation provides valuable information so that we can change safety programs and help you reduce your risk. Accident reporting. What are the steps? Usually an employee informs their supervisor that they've had an accident or they've injured themselves. When this happens, it's critical that the employee, the injured employee, fill out the accident form. The reason we want the injured employee to fill it out and not the supervisor is that if the employee changes their story later, we don't want them to be able to say that what the supervisor wrote down is not what they had told them. And of course, we want to get witness statements, and there's a form for this. We want to be sure there's a post-accident drug screen performed. In most states, this must be performed within 8 hours of the injury. That's critical. And we want to make sure employees go to the correct doctor. This is a little more complex. We'll talk about this later. In some states, the employees get to pick the doctor, and in other states, the employers get to pick the doctor. We'll discern that later. We want to make sure you know that there's a medical authorization form and that needs to be filled out in order to authorize the drug screen to be performed and to allow Applied Risk Solutions to receive billing information so that we can make sure the bills are paid and that we get our proper bill reviews. We want to make sure the manager accompanies the injured employee to the medical facility. And we want to be sure that we get completed reports to your corporate office the same day and or to Applied Risk Solutions so that we can process the claim. And last, we want to be sure that we get the work restrictions for the injured employee so that we can make light duty work available if at all possible. Accidents. All accidents are to be documented and reported to Applied Risk Solutions, no matter how minor. If someone reports an injury to you, but they don't want to seek medical attention, they don't want to go to the doctor, you should still report the injury and send them for a drug screen. It's very common for somebody under the influence of drugs or alcohol to report an injury and not want to seek medical attention. At a later date, they'll come back and tell you that they're still hurt and they want to go to the doctor. And of course, by then, the drugs are out of their system or they've sobered up. The reporting forms. If you don't have any, contact your Human Resource Department. If you're having problems getting a form, call Applied Risk Solutions at 678-384-5492. We can fax them to you or email them to you, either one. Here's a copy of the reporting form. Again, it's very important for the employee to fill this out. It's a two-sided form. Both front and back, every line, thoroughly filled out, legible, where it can be read. This is a copy of the witness statement form. It must be filled out by the actual witness and signed. You want to report the accidents to your HR department and get copies of the forms to them on the same day of the accident. Accidents must be reported to Applied Risk Solutions as soon as possible. You can fax them to us at 404-574-1395. or you can email them to claims@appliedrisk.net. The drug-free workplace. What is the drug-free workplace? It's a workplace that does pre-employment drug screens, post-accident drug screens, and for some of them, random drug screens. Workman's compensation insurance will not cover medical treatment for an injured employee if he's under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time of the accident. And in most states, the drug screen must be completed within 8 hours of the reported injury. That's critical. Anyone reporting an injury must receive a drug screen. This is a panel of physicians. Not all states have these, but if you're in Georgia, Tennessee, Colorado, Pennsylvania, or Virginia, you should have this notice posted in your facility. It's critical that it be posted. It must be posted because if it's not, the injured person can see whatever doctor they wish, but if it is posted, they must see a doctor on this list if they wish to claim it under Workman's compensation insurance. Employer-directed states. If your location is in one of the following states, you as the employer must tell the injured person where they will receive medical treatment. If your location is in Alabama, Idaho, Iowa, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, Arkansas, Florida, Indiana, Kansas, New Jersey, Oklahoma, or Arizona, you as the employer will dictate where your employees will see a physician. Employee-directed states. If your location is in one of these states, the injured employee will determine the doctor they want to see initially. In these states, do not give them any direction as to what medical facility or medical doctor they should see. These states include Alaska, D.C., Illinois, Louisiana, Minnesota, Nebraska, New York, Oregon, South Dakota, Washington, Wisconsin, New Mexico, Delaware, Hawaii, Kentucky, Maryland, Mississippi, New Hampshire, Ohio, Rhode Island, Texas, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Other states yet are known as employer first, employee second states. In these states, the employer picks first, but at a later date, determined by the state law, if the employee is not happy with their physician, they can choose their doctor. States that conform to this are California, Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, Vermont, and Utah. Medical treatment. If you're in a state where the employer directs medical treatment and your employer has not provided you a list of recommended facilities, or you don't have a panel of physicians, we strongly recommend you find an urgent care facility for all non-life-threatening injuries. Most injuries are not life-threatening, and the urgent cares are a much better option. They're more convenient, they cost less time, they're less expensive. Get to know the locations and their hours of operation. Most of them have extended hours and are open later in the evening, which makes it convenient if your operations aren't regular 9 to 5. This is the medical treatment authorization form. You might want to know, why is this needed? Well, it's to ensure the employee receives a drug screen, and it's to ensure that Applied Risk Solutions receives invoices and has access to the medical billing information. This is critical so we can get bills paid. Next steps. Accompany the team member or employee to the medical facility. This is critical because if they're injured, they may not be in a condition to drive, or again, we're going to test them for drugs and alcohol. If they are under the influence of drugs and alcohol, we definitely don't want them driving. We want to be sure they get to the correct facility. We want to be sure they get there safely. We want to be sure they receive a post-accident drug screen, and we want to be sure that we get the work restrictions clear. Work restrictions. When possible, we strongly recommend providing light-duty work. Why? Well, because in the long run, it's going to reduce your cost of insurance. If you have them at work and they're doing light duty, you're at least getting something for them. If they sit at home, they're still going to receive 2/3 of their pay through Workman's compensation insurance, and in the long run, your insurance rates will go up. And probably the biggest reason is people that are on light duty return much sooner than those who don't have light duty work. In review, it's a pretty simple process. Remember, have the injured person complete the accident investigation form. Have witnesses fill out the statement. Fill out the medical treatment authorization form, and be sure that if you're an employer-directed state, that you tell them where to go, or they pick a doctor from the physician's panel. You want to be sure they receive a drug screen. You want to get the work restrictions. You want to send this to your point of contact with your human resource department immediately so that it can be supplied or faxed to Applied Risk Solutions. Again, any document sent directly to Applied Risk Solutions should have a fax cover sheet with your company or franchise's name. And if you have any questions, please call Applied Risk Solutions. We're here to help. 678-384-5492. We'd much rather take your calls and help you through this process than to get incomplete information. Thank you very much.